co-director of Aspire 2025, which is a research centre at the University of Otago. The New Zealand government has recently released a discussion document setting out a proposed action plan to achieve the Smokefree Aotearoa 2025 goal, and it's invited submissions on that document. To inform people about some of the measures that are proposed in the document, we're conducting interviews with international experts on particular measures. And this evening, I'm talking with Luk Joossens from the Framework Convention Alliance, who's an expert in illicit tobacco trade. Now, Luk, we often hear tobacco companies say that measures such as reducing the nicotine in cigarettes down to very low levels or reducing the availability of tobacco products is going to give rise to a burgeoning black market. What's the evidence for that claim?
Well, I've been looking at illicit tobacco trade for the last 25 years. The industry has been saying, for instance, on taxation, that if you increase taxation, smuggling will increase. Over the last 25 years in the European Union, taxes have been increasing, consumption went down, and the illicit trade went down also. So globally, we see that the demand for cigarettes is going down, and the demand for illicit cigarettes is going down also, because smuggling is a question of demand and supply. If there is less demand for cigarettes, there will be less demand for illicit cigarettes. And then we have the supply side. Criminal organizations are looking for more profits, but these criminal organizations, they want to operate in countries without obstacles. For that reason, we often see that in low tax countries, there's more illicit trade than in high tax countries, because they want to have countries with corruption and no law enforcement. I think in the case of New Zealand, they have a small number of smokers, 500,000, that makes it not attractive for criminal organizations. On the other side, you have not corruption, well organized, and no land borders with other countries. So that's also an advantage. So if you make it difficult for criminal organizations, there will be less a risk of smuggling in your country.
So how much notice do you think, how much weight should we be placing on these claims from tobacco companies about the likelihood of illicit trade?
Well, you should always monitor illicit trade. Illicit trade is possible and it exists. It's possible that after some measures it might increase, but you should monitor it and you should increase your law enforcement. 2 years ago, the World Bank published an extensive report on illicit tobacco trade. They say that if you increase the law enforcement, you will reduce illicit trade. So make it more difficult for smugglers to operate in your country and you will do well.
So, as I mentioned, New Zealand is proposing to reduce the level of nicotine in cigarettes down to very low levels, and it's also planning to greatly reduce the retail availability of tobacco products. These are both proposals that are set out in the action plan. What's the risk, in your opinion, that these measures could lead to an increase in illicit trade?
On the retailers, there is no risk, there's an opportunity. If I would give New Zealand one advice to control the illicit trade, is to control the retail system. So if you reduce the retail system, if you have a license system, you control well where the cigarettes are sold, that's an advantage to combat illicit trade. So you're doing an excellent way, and perhaps you should also look at tracking and tracing. In those COVID times, you have whole systems of traceability of persons with COVID. You could imagine to do the same thing with cigarettes, but the control of the retail system is an excellent proposal and will help you to combat illicit trade.
Okay, and just finally, is there any other advice that you would offer a country like New Zealand that's considering these proposals to mitigate any potential risk of illicit trade evolving?
Well, As said before, you should monitor illicit trade. That's the first thing. Secondly, you should consider to ratify the WHO protocol to combat illicit trade. New Zealand has not done that. And part of that, there is the obligation of a tracking and tracing system that would be very useful in the case of New Zealand. You may also consider to increase penalties for those who are involved in criminal activities. So if you increase your law enforcement, as recommended by the World Bank, I think you will do very well.
Look, thank you so much, Luke, for sharing your expertise on illicit trade in tobacco products with us. Videos of the interviews that we're conducting are going to be available on the Aspire 2025 website, where you'll also be able to find a series of blogs in which we provide more information about many of the measures that are set out in the proposed action plan. Luke, once again, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us this evening. Kia ora, ka kite.